What's happening, YouTube? It's Simon466 Cards, and today we're going to talk about the importance, or perhaps a lack of importance, of serial numbers on the value of cards, and specifically lower serial numbers. I am showing on my page results from a Fanatics Collect auction from February 9th. These two cards I have highlighted for you are cards that I've tracked. They are of my favorite player, Joel Embiid. Let's not talk about how the season has gone. We're going to keep on moving on. But these are two cards of his from the exact same auction, from the exact same set, in the exact same grade, PSA 10, but they are two different parallels. One is a green serial numbered out of 5, and the other is a gold serial numbered out of 10. Both in a PSA 10 are a pop 2. You can see that here, 2 here, and 2 here for the green and the gold. And you can see that the green, even though it is serial numbered out of 5, sold for $660, whereas the select gold out of 10 sold for double, exactly double actually, $13.20. And this goes to prove that it doesn't necessarily hold that the lower the serial number, the more valuable the card, because the color and the parallel do matter. And obviously gold cards, especially in the Panini era, have a much higher value, have a much are held in higher regard than something like a green. There is just a stigma, an aura, if you will, attached to gold cards in the Panini era, and less so for something like a green. And keep in mind, this is from 2014, right? This is not from more recent years where there are so many parallels you can barely count them all. This is from 2014, and if you look here, there are only 10 parallels from Select Concourse Basketball that year. From Select, there's blue silver, purple white silver, blues out of 249, reds out of 149, and orange out of 60, tie-dye out of 25, gold out of 10, green out of 5, as we both know, and then the black out of 1, and that is it. There's only 10 of them. And ideally, if you were to ask me for my opinion, it would look like something like this for every year, whether it be Select or Prism or whatever, and not the literally 81 parallels that we have for Panini Prism this year in basketball. And yet, even in a year with only 10 parallels, the gold outsells the green by double. And that just goes to show, to prove you and to myself, that the color and the stigma attached to the parallel matters just and as much, and maybe even more, than the serial number. And you can also see by the number of people following the card, only 21 people favorited or followed the card when it was a green versus 44 when it was a gold. And as a Embiid collector, as someone who PCs Embiid, I was also much more interested in the gold than I was in the green. And you can see that while I did bid on both, I did not win either of them. The other thing I want to highlight is that, okay, let's take for granted what I'm saying is true. Serial numbers don't matter as much as what the parallel represents. This is true in the year 2014. What happens if it's the year 2024, 2025, and this is the list of all parallels from Panini Prism Basketball? There are 81 of them. And if we go in reverse order, Nebula, 1 of 1. I think it's fair to say that will hold value. Black Shimmer Prism, out of first off the line, 1 out of 1. I think that holds value. Black Prism, 1 out of 1. I believe that holds value. And now we have two different weirdo green parallels. Green Shimmer, Fast Break Neon Green. I feel like that's more of a bastardization of a parallel than just the straight green out of 5, and yet that's worth half of a gold based off of what we've just seen here. And so these two, big question marks around these two. Plum Blossoms out of 8, I'm gonna pass on that. I feel even worse for that than I do for these two random green colors out of 5. Lucky Envelopes out of 8, I think you know where I stand on that. Green Sparkle, Choice Green out of 8, respectively. Again, how many random greens, like I don't even know what to call these things, out of 5 out of 8 do we have here? Laser Gold Prism, Wave Gold out of 10, Ice Gold out of 10, Gold Shimmer out of 10, Lotus Flower out of 18, Cherry Blossoms out of 20, Gold Sparkle out of 24, Green Pulsar out of 25. These are just the numbers out of 25 or lower. You can see as we get even higher in this list, I don't see a world where any of these things hold long-term value. Again, it's been 10 years since this set came out, and these cards of one of the biggest stars in that year are worth $1,000, you know? And I understand this is Select versus Prism, so there is a difference there, but I mean, there were 10 parallels this year. There are 81 in Prism this year. There is very little chance that these random prisms, parallels, are going to be worth very much. So just be really, really careful of what you buy. I think that in the long run, the only parallels that will matter are these 3, maybe the black gold, just because it's out of 5, the gold prism, maybe the gold shimmer, and maybe the mojo. And that's about it. All of these other ones, they're not going to be worth much of anything. I'm not saying they're not going to be worth anything a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, but 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, unless it's literally Wemby or someone who becomes a superstar, I don't see how any of these hold value. Whether you are a perp or plum blossom out of 8 or a teal ice out of 225, be very careful, because if the long term between now and 10, 20 years from now is 0, then that means your longer term trajectory is down from when the product is first released. And so this is all a long way to say, don't get seduced by a low serial number. If this can happen for a card from 2014, where there's very few parallels and the print runs are very low, imagine what's going to happen 3, 5, 10 years from now for a set with 81 parallels. So buyer beware. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you as always for listening and watching. I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.